Vision has no problem transforming into a 50s TV husband. But things weren't quite so easy for Paul Bettany and WandaVision's makeup department. Disney's new series easily zips between decades, but a lot of genius costume, makeup, and set design went into recreating famous sitcoms and giving them the perfect MCU twist. You won't believe the colors the team had to use to film those black and white scenes. Vision had to take on an entirely new hue.
I'm sorry?
Here's the wardrobe and makeup magic that went on behind the scenes. Paul Bettany had to wear Vision makeup 6 days a week. And although he says it wasn't difficult to put on, taking it off was an entirely different story. It took more than an hour to remove the makeup, and the actor described it as feeling like his skin was in tatters. To try and save his skin, Bettany started spending 20 minutes in a mobile sauna every day after filming. It loosened the makeup and allowed it to be peeled off without taking any of his skin with it, and it's a pretty relaxing way to decompress after work.
That pain will roll over the earth.
Seeing the black and white sets in color makes us realize just how much work went into making those grayscale scenes pop on our TV. Lots of blues and purples were used to get the hues to look just right. Costume designer Mayes Rubeo even took pictures of potential outfits using the black and white filter on her phone to see how they'd look on screen. This also meant that Vision's red skin had to go because it showed up way too dark on film. Instead, they painted his face blue to achieve the right contrast.
Well, we could remedy that.
Kathryn Hahn brings the perfect amount of wit and mystery to the character of Agnes.
Hello, dear. I'm Agnes, your neighbor to the right.
But filming the black and white scenes were hard for her and the rest of the cast for a surprising reason. It was way too hot on set. The show used lighting techniques that were accurate for the era, but they were also extremely warm. Pair that with the thick costumes and live studio audience, and Hahn was spending most of the episode trying not to sweat through her dress. But despite the heat, filming the 50s scenes ended up being one of her favorite on-set memories.
Do you set your own jellies, dear?
With all of these fashion transformations, it was also important for the actors to learn how to properly wear the clothes. We don't mean how to put them on, but how to carry themselves and even speak differently while wearing them. Elizabeth Olsen opened up about how challenging it was to capture the personalities of women in those specific eras through their fashion, from the more restrictive style in the 50s to the more relaxed vibe of the 70s. The cast even attended a sitcom boot camp where they learned how to walk, talk, and act like retro characters.
Really try to make everything very era specific.
Elizabeth Olsen loved to collaborate on Wanda's sitcom costumes, especially because she spent time on the set of Full House with her sisters when she was a kid. When it comes to that iconic Scarlet Witch costumes from the comics, Olsen was the one fighting for it to be as comic accurate as possible. She convinced the showrunners to go full out with their Halloween tribute to the original Scarlet Witch, and Mayes Rubeo made sure all the colors were bright and accurate, right down to comic Wanda's original pink tights.
This is what our show is going to be about for WandaVision.
Vision's Halloween costume received the same attention. The green and yellow look, complete with a huge fake Mind Stone, is an homage to how he looked in the Avengers number 57 all the way back in 1968. There are reasons Marvel finally went for the costumes now and not before. For one, the Halloween episode meant the costumes could purposefully look cheap and simple. And two, before they didn't have the rights to the characters' original costumes, but now that Disney owns Fox, those copyright issues are behind them.
We can't reverse death.
One of Mayes Rubeo's favorite characters to dress was Geraldine Monica, especially her groovy 70s style. One of the aspects that her and actress Teyonah Parris wanted to include was a natural afro. This allowed them to represent Black culture in a typically white-centric sitcom world. To get inspired to play a sitcom version of Monica Rambeau, Parris took cues from characters like Thelma and Willona in Good Times. And we can look forward to some more interesting fashion moments from Monica in the future. Rubeo promises that the character will appear in more wild and surprising looks before the series is through.
I'm, Geraldine.
Mayes Rubeo designed Wanda's wedding dress herself and made it entirely from scratch. If it looks like a familiar old Hollywood style, that's because it definitely is. It pays homage to Audrey Hepburn, specifically her dress from 1957's Funny Face. Vision's outfits also got to pay tribute to some television royalty. For episode 1, Rubeo took a lot of inspiration from the Dick Van Dyke Show and designed a suit and tie from scratch for Paul Bettany. The actor thought it was so unique and comfortable that he wanted to take it home after filming.
Excellent plan.
Elizabeth Olsen's hair had to endure a lot of transformations meant to resemble looks from some of the greatest leading ladies in the history of sitcoms. The styles are often a mix of different eras because the aim wasn't to have them be as accurate as possible, but rather create over-the-top styles that fit into Wanda's fantasy world. In episode 1, we see 50s curls reminiscent of I Love Lucy, while episode 2 was heavily inspired by Bewitched and the Mary Tyler Moore Show. When it came to the 70s, it was all about crazy, wild colors, so there was no better show to use for inspiration than the Brady Bunch. The set design and wardrobe department worked together to coordinate wallpaper, paints, and fabric that would go well together and resemble sets of 70s sitcoms. Wanda's look was also heavily inspired by Donna from That 70s Show, especially the straight red hair. By pulling from a show that aired in the 90s, Rubeo and her team were able to keep Wanda's look modern while not skimping on the outrageous 70s fashion. It was a challenge for Elizabeth Olsen to transform from superhero to newlywed to new mom, but she had fashion that emulated famous TV moms from the 80s to help get her into character. Her plaid prints were inspired by shows like Roseanne, while the curly, messy hair is reminiscent of Family Ties. Olsen definitely looks frazzled but capable, and the chaotic 80s styling was a perfect time to introduce the character to motherhood.
I have everything under control.
Getting all these looks right was difficult, but by focusing on prints and silhouettes, Rubeo was able to capture and modernize the different decades of TV fashion. Designs were often inspired by specific colors or types of fabric. The dress Wanda wore in the 70s was inspired by one piece of vintage fabric that Rubeo found and knew she needed to use. There was only 30 meters available, so she turned it into a simple dress that could accommodate Wanda's growing belly and also perfectly complement her hair. The result is one of the series' most iconic looks.
Your personal best.
With in-depth styling also comes meticulous attention to every small detail that might take us out of the decade we're supposed to be experiencing. The wardrobe and makeup department had to pay attention to even the tiniest things, like the length of the actors' fingernails and their shape, to the different types of fake eyelashes Wanda would be wearing. The 50s showed us short, clean nails and eyelashes perfect for batting across the dinner table.
Yes.
Going from black and white to full color isn't just a shtick to reel in old sitcom fans. It's also a way to represent Wanda's inner conflict of being both an Avenger and a grieving woman chasing a picture-perfect life. This is why it was important for wardrobe and set designers to create the most colorful world imaginable as soon as the show transitions from black and white. Wanda wears a lot of reds or similar colors, and it's entirely on purpose. The black and white Wanda was further distanced from reality, but as color comes back and the story progresses, we see more of the true Scarlet Witch.
What?
Which WandaVision decade is your favorite? We're big fans of the fun 70s vibe, but we'd also love to watch an entire Bewitched remake starring Elizabeth Olsen. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching!